Some objects defy every law of science and history. You are about to discover 20 historical artifacts that should not exist. By the end, you will see the entire timeline of human civilization in a startling new light. We will examine an ancient computer found at the bottom of the sea and a map that accurately charts a continent hidden under miles of ice. How much of our past remains a secret? That corroded lump of bronze, hauled from the seafloor, held a secret that would baffle generations. For decades, the Antikythera Mechanism was a curious but indecipherable enigma, a mysterious object from an ancient shipwreck. Then, with the help of advanced imaging technology, researchers finally peered inside. They found not a simple clockwork, but a miniature universe of interlocking gears. Over 30 precise bronze gears worked in concert, a mechanical symphony capable of tracking the cycles of the sun and moon, predicting eclipses, and even modeling the irregular orbit of our own moon. This was not a tool for navigation. It was a sophisticated astronomical calculator, a device of such intricate engineering that nothing comparable would appear again for over 1,000 years. Its very existence shatters our comfortable timeline of history. We are forced to confront a startling possibility that a vibrant tradition of high technology flourished in the ancient Greek world, only to be lost for centuries. This artifact alone rewrites chapters of our scientific history. But what if the ancient world's knowledge extended beyond the stars and into the very fabric of the Earth? Our next discovery suggests it did, with a map that charts the impossible. In a museum basement in Baghdad sits an unassuming clay jar, no larger than a hand. It was excavated in the 1930s, a simple artifact from the Parthian era, a time stretching from 250 years before the Common Era to 224 years after. Its original catalog entry was mundane, likely a container for precious scrolls, but look inside and its true mystery is revealed. The jar holds a copper cylinder, sealed at the bottom with asphalt, and within that cylinder sits an iron rod. This simple assembly is what we now call the Baghdad Battery. Fill this jar with a common acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, and a chemical reaction occurs. The acid acts as an electrolyte, allowing a tiny electric current to flow between the different metals, generating a little over 1 volt of electricity. It is not enough to power a city, but it is enough to challenge our entire perception of ancient technological progress. Mainstream archaeology often prefers the scroll storage theory, a safe and simple explanation. Yet researchers like Dr. Paul Costa have pointed out that the electrochemical properties are undeniable and intentional. Why go to the trouble of constructing such a specific, sealed vessel if not to harness that energy? The most compelling theories suggest practical, albeit lost, applications. This small current could have been used for electroplating, to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto other objects, creating gilded statues or jewelry. Alternatively, it might have served in early medical electrotherapy, a faint tingling current used to treat pain, a practice not formally rediscovered until the 18th century. The existence of this device forces us to reconsider a silent chapter of history. What other experiments with this subtle power were conducted, only to be forgotten when their civilization fell? The pursuit of such hidden knowledge seems to be a recurring theme, leading us next to a chart so accurate it defies its own creation. In 1513, a Turkish admiral named Piri Reis completed a world map, a document he openly stated was compiled from many older source charts. What survives today is only a fragment, yet it contains a geographical shockwave. This map depicts the coastline of Antarctica, a continent that would remain officially unknown to the world for another 300 years. Even more baffling, it shows this landmass not as it appears today, a frozen wasteland buried under miles of ice, but as a land with flowing rivers and verdant shores, free of its glacial prison. This is not a vague, guessed-at shape. The work of historians like Charles Hapgood, detailed in his book Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, demonstrates that the map's rendering of Antarctica's Queen Maud Land is topographically precise, matching the subglacial contours that modern science has only recently mapped with seismic equipment. The implication is staggering. The original source maps used by Piri Reis must have been created by a people who saw Antarctica in a temperate era, a time so ancient it rewrites our understanding of human exploration. How could a pre-classical civilization possess such sophisticated knowledge of global geography and navigation? The map stands as a silent testament to a lost age of discovery, its secrets locked in vellum and ink. This pursuit of impossible knowledge in stone and parchment leads us next to an artifact where the medium is just as mysterious as the message, a set of stones carved with a precision that defies simple tools. The wooden object discovered at Saqqara was initially dismissed as a child's toy or a stylized bird. Carved from sycamore wood, it was simply catalogued and stored away. But its design was all wrong for a bird. It featured a distinct vertical tail fin, a structure no bird in nature possesses. This tail fin was perfectly perpendicular to the main body, a design element critical for stability in flight. Its wings were not merely decorative, they were carefully shaped with an airfoil cross-section, engineered to generate lift as they move through the air. Aviation historian Dr. Khalil Messiha championed the idea that this was a scale model of a much larger glider. He noted its striking resemblance to a modern monoplane, a design that would not be perfected for another 2,000 years. The artifact's complete lack of legs further supports this theory. It was not meant to stand on a shelf, it was meant to be held aloft to be launched. Think of the seeds from a maple tree, how their single wing allows them to spin and glide on the wind. Was the Saqqara bird inspired by such natural observation, a primitive understanding of aerodynamics captured in wood, or does it represent something far more ambitious? Could it be a craftsman's model for a full-sized glider, a blueprint for a technology that was lost before it could ever be fully realized? The silence of the artifact is deafening. It offers no written manual, only its shape as a clue. This small, lightweight model hints at dreams of flight in an ancient world. But our next discovery moves from the aerodynamic to the monumental, from an object you can hold in your hand to stones that weigh more than entire houses. Deep within the lush jungles of Costa Rica, a simple agricultural project uncovered a geological marvel. Workers clearing land for a banana plantation in the 1930s found their tools striking against smooth, impossibly round stone. They had stumbled upon the first of hundreds of monolithic spheres, known as Los Bolas, ranging from the size of a melon to colossal orbs over 16 tons. These spheres were crafted by the Dikwis culture from around 600 years after the Common Era. The sheer effort involved is almost unimaginable. These are not soft stones, they are made from granodiorite, a rock as hard as granite. Without metal tools, the creators used an ingenious and painstaking process. They likely used controlled fires to heat the stone, then quickly cooled it with water to create fractures, before finally shaping the sphere through endless hours of pecking with other hard stones and grinding with sand. The result is a level of precision that stuns modern engineers. Many of the spheres are so perfectly round that their diameter varies by less than a centimeter from any measuring point. Achieving such geometric perfection is a monumental task even with today's technology. Why would a society invest such immense effort? Their placement offers tantalizing clues. Some spheres were arranged in precise alignments, pointing to celestial events or forming complex patterns on the landscape. They might have been astronomical calendars, markers of territorial boundaries, or symbols of social status and power. Yet the Dickwes people left no written records to explain their purpose. The true meaning of these silent stone giants is lost to the jungle, leaving us with a powerful, tangible mystery. What profound understanding of geometry and astronomy did this culture possess? And why did they express it through such massive, perfect forms? This human drive to shape our world with impossible precision finds a strange parallel in our next discovery, an object not carved by human hands, but one that nature itself seems to have engineered. The story of human history is often one of slow, linear progress, yet some discoveries seem to leapfrog across the ages. In 1936, along the banks of the Red Creek near London, Texas, a simple family outing became a moment of profound mystery. While hiking, a couple noticed a curious piece of rock with what appeared to be a piece of wood protruding from it. They took it home and cracked the rock nodule open, revealing an object that defied all logic, a hammer completely encased in stone. This is the artifact known as the London Hammer. The rock surrounding it was identified as a concretion, a hard mineral shell that forms around an object over time. The shocking part was that this specific stone was dated to the Cretaceous period, a time over 100 million years ago, an era of dinosaurs, long before the first humans were supposed to walk the earth. How could a clearly manufactured tool be sealed inside such ancient rock? Skeptical geologists offer a compelling counterargument, suggesting that the concretion process can happen relatively quickly around an object that is itself much younger. They propose the hammer was simply dropped or left behind in a mineral-rich environment, and the stone formed around it in a matter of centuries, not millennia. Yet, even this explanation does not fully resolve the enigma. The hammer itself is a puzzle. Its iron head is of an unusual purity, a type of iron not commonly associated with modern mass-produced hammers, and the wooden handle has undergone a process of carbonization, turning partially to coal, a transformation that typically requires immense age and pressure. This artifact forces us to confront two equally challenging possibilities. Either our dating of the rock is misunderstood, and the concretion formed with surprising speed around a more recent, yet still anomalous tool, or we must accept that the hammer is genuinely ancient, a relic from a time when, according to everything we know, no one should have been forging metal. The London Hammer stands as a classic out-of-place artifact, a tangible object that simply does not fit. It embodies the conflict between established timelines and stubborn, physical evidence, a conflict that deepens with our next discovery, a book that appears to contain knowledge from the future itself. In 1912, a rare book dealer named Wilfred Voynich acquired a collection of ancient manuscripts. Among them was one item that stood out, a 240-page codex bound in vellum, filled from cover to cover with a script that no one on Earth could read. This was the Voynich Manuscript. From the moment it surfaced, it has been an impenetrable fortress of a puzzle, defying every attempt at translation by the world's most brilliant codebreakers, including those who cracked military ciphers during the World Wars. The text flows in a graceful, consistent hand, its characters and word structures suggesting a genuine language with its own rules of grammar and syntax. Yet, for all its linguistic coherence, the meaning remains utterly locked away. The illustrations only deepen the mystery. Its pages are crowded with drawings of plants that are botanically impossible, species that have never been catalogued by science. There are astrological charts mapping celestial bodies in configurations unknown to our astronomy, and intricate diagrams of biological systems that feature tiny, naked women bathing in interconnected, fantastical tubes of green fluid. One theory, proposed by academics like Dr. Gerard Cheshire, suggests it is written in a lost Proto-Romance language, a vernacular precursor to the Latin-based languages we know today. Others have argued it is an elaborate hoax, a meaningless creation designed to deceive, but the manuscript's internal consistency, the sheer volume of its unique text, argues against a random forgery. What was the author trying to communicate so desperately that they invented an entire written language to do it? Was it a book of forgotten herbal lore, a treatise on a lost branch of alchemy, or a secret history of the world from a civilization that left no other trace? The vellum pages hold their silence, a beautiful and maddening secret. This book of unbreakable codes finds a strange parallel in an object that is itself a kind of key, a set of stone artifacts that unlock a geological mystery of impossible age. In the dry heat of the California mountains in 1961, 3 rockhounds were searching for geodes. They cracked open what appeared to be a promising specimen, anticipating the glitter of crystal formations within. Instead of natural beauty, they found engineering. Inside the rock was a man-made object, a cylinder of ceramic and metal with a rusted iron shaft at its core. It looked unmistakably like a spark plug. This was the birth of the Coso Artifact mystery. The rock that encased it was not a typical geode, but a hard concretion of clay, pebbles, and fossilized shells. The finders were certain this nodule was ancient, and they had it X-rayed. The images seemed to reveal a sophisticated assembly, a metal rod encased in a ceramic insulator, all surrounded by a hexagonal sheath, much like a modern automotive component. The initial claim was staggering, that this mechanical device had been sealed inside a rock 500,000 years old. The public imagination soared, picturing lost advanced civilizations or even ancient visitors. How could a 20th century technology be trapped in stone from an era of mastodons and saber-toothed cats? The answer, as skeptics soon demonstrated, was far more mundane. The object was identified almost certainly as a champion spark plug from the 1920s. The so-called geode was a concretion, a hard mineral shell that can form relatively quickly around an object in the right conditions, especially in wet, mineral-rich soil. A spark plug dropped by a miner or a prospector decades earlier could have been encased in such a nodule, creating the illusion of immense age. The controversy itself is a fascinating artifact. It highlights a powerful human tendency, our desire to fit mysterious objects into grand, forgotten narratives. We see a familiar shape in an impossible context, and our minds leap to extraordinary explanations. The Coso story serves as a vital lesson in balancing open-minded curiosity with rigorous scrutiny. It reminds us that not every mystery requires a rewrite of history. Some are simply cases of mistaken identity. Yet this very debate, this tension between the mundane and the miraculous, perfectly sets the stage for our next discovery. It is an object that is undeniably, authentically ancient, yet it displays a precision and a knowledge that feels just as anachronistic as a spark plug in a stone. High on the stone walls of the Hathor Temple at Dendera, a strange scene has been staring down at visitors for over 2,000 years. Carved in meticulous bas-relief, it shows figures gathered around a large, transparent bulb. Inside this bulb, a snake stretches its full length, held rigidly in place. This serpentine form is connected by a thick cable to a box, which is supported by a pillar, while a kneeling godlike figure seems to operate the entire assembly. To the modern eye, the resemblance is uncanny. It looks exactly like a giant working light bulb, complete with its own electrical filament and power source. This is the enigma known as the Dendera Light. Mainstream Egyptology provides a clear, symbolic interpretation. They explain that this is not technology, but a profound religious allegory. The bulb is a lotus flower, the snake represents the god Harsomptis, and the entire scene depicts the moment of creation, the dawn of light emerging from the primordial waters. It is a story carved in stone, not a technical diagram. Yet, the visual similarity is so striking that it has fueled decades of alternative speculation. Proponents of ancient high technology, like Erich von Däniken, argue that the image is precisely what it appears to be, a representation of an electrical illumination device, perhaps even a precursor to the crux tubes that preceded modern light bulbs. They point to the details, the distinct shape of the bulb, the cable snaking back to what could be a generator or battery, and the filament-like snake held in perfect suspension. Could this simply be a case of our modern minds projecting our own technology onto an ancient symbol? Or does this stone relief preserve a forgotten truth that the ancient Egyptians understood and perhaps even harnessed a form of electricity, using it to light their deepest, most sacred tombs and temples? The carving offers no definitive answer, only its silent, challenging image. It forces us to ask whether we are looking at a beautiful myth or a lost instruction manual. This mystery of ancient vision, of literally seeing the light, finds a fascinating parallel in an artifact that is all about perfect sight, a lens crafted with impossible precision. Buried in the royal ruins of Nimrud, a piece of polished rock crystal lay waiting for its true purpose to be recognized. Unearthed in 1850, this 3,000-year-old artifact, known as the Nimrud Lens, is a small oval of ground crystal that fits perfectly in the palm of your hand. At first glance, it might have been mistaken for a simple piece of decorative inlay, a jewel for a throne or a piece of furniture, but its shape tells a different story. This crystal has been meticulously ground into a specific convex form, and when you hold it up to the light, its function becomes clear. It bends light. As physicist Dr. Giovanni Pettinato confirmed, this lens has a distinct focal length of about 4.5 inches. It can concentrate sunlight into a searing point of heat, enough to ignite tinder, or it can magnify small objects, bringing fine details into sharp relief. The Assyrians who crafted it possessed a working knowledge of optics. Imagine an artisan using this very lens to illuminate the most intricate work on a seal or a piece of jewelry, their world shrinking to the tiny, magnified surface under their tool. Could such a device have been used for more than craft? Was it a tool for an early astronomer, a means to bring the distant heavens just a little bit closer? The official explanation often leans toward ornamentation, a safer, simpler answer. Yet the precision of its shape argues for deliberate design. This was not just a pretty rock. It was a functional instrument. The existence of the Nimrud Lens forces a quiet but profound question. Was this a one-off curiosity, the product of a single brilliant mind? Or was it a surviving fragment of a much broader tradition of optical science, a tradition that was lost when the Assyrian Empire fell into dust? It stands as a silent testament to a forgotten chapter of inquiry, a tool not just for seeing the small, but for envisioning a larger, more sophisticated past. This ability to see the unseen, to focus on a detail that changes everything, guides us to our next artifact, one that portrays a creature from a world long vanished. A Peruvian farmer's discovery in the 1960s presented a challenge so profound it seemed ripped from fantasy. He revealed a collection of ancient stones, each one covered in intricate carvings that defied every established narrative. These are the Ica Stones, thousands of andesite rocks etched with scenes that should not be. Humans are shown interacting intimately with dinosaurs, creatures extinct for 65 million years. Men are depicted riding on the backs of Triceratops and Stegosaurus as if they were domesticated animals. Other carvings show figures performing what looks like advanced medicine, using tools to conduct cesarean sections and intricate heart surgery. Still others map out complex astronomical charts with planets and stars arranged in precise, knowledgeable formations. If these stones are authentic, they would not just rewrite history, they would shatter it, placing humanity alongside beasts from a lost world and gifting our ancestors a level of scientific understanding that feels eerily modern. The scientific community almost universally dismisses them as an elaborate hoax. They point to critical inconsistencies, like the fresh, unweathered grooves of the carvings that suggest modern tools, and the fact that one farmer eventually confessed to creating many of them himself. The sheer scale of the collection, however, gives one pause. There are said to be over 15,000 of these stones, each with unique, complex artwork. Could a single individual, or even a small group, have the time, the skill, and the motivation to produce such a vast and varied body of work purely for deception? The carvings themselves are a fascinating study. They are not crude doodles, but detailed, confident lines that tell coherent stories, blending anachronistic knowledge with a vision of a prehistoric world. This leads to a deeper question that goes beyond the stones themselves. What is the more compelling mystery, the possibility of a lost advanced civilization, or the powerful human drive to create such profound and revolutionary myths? Whether a colossal fraud or a silent truth, the Ica Stones force us to confront our own desire for a past that is more wondrous and more mysterious than the one we have been told. This very human tension between fact and belief finds a chilling echo in our next artifact, a fossil that seems to lock a similar impossible story in stone. The banks of the Paluxy River in Texas hold a fossilized puzzle that once seemed to rewrite the story of life itself. In the early 20th century, amateur fossil hunters traced the dried riverbed, their eyes fixed on the distinct three-toed impressions of the theropod dinosaurs pressed into the Cretaceous limestone. Alongside these ancient tracks, they began to notice other, more startling marks. These new impressions were elongated and rounded, bearing an uncanny resemblance to human footprints. The discovery ignited a firestorm. Here, captured in stone over 100 million years old, was what appeared to be direct evidence of humans and dinosaurs walking the same Earth, a notion that shatters the entire evolutionary timeline. The initial interpretation was seductively simple, and for a time, the Paluxy River tracks became a rallying point for those challenging mainstream science. The story, however, is a masterclass in the re-examination of evidence. When professional paleontologists subjected the site to rigorous scrutiny, a different picture emerged. The so-called human tracks, upon close inspection, were not so clear-cut. Many were revealed to be eroded dinosaur tracks where the finer details of the toes had worn away, leaving only a vague humanoid outline. Others were identified as metatarsal impressions, formed when a dinosaur settled its full foot, including the heel, into the mud, creating a longer, more flat-footed print. In some unfortunate cases, the marks were shown to be modern carvings, deliberate hoaxes meant to bolster the extraordinary claim. The site itself is undeniably a rich dinosaur trackway, filled with the pristine prints of predators and the massive, elephant-like impressions of sauropods. The controversial prints, by contrast, are often ambiguous, lacking the distinct anatomical features you would expect from a genuine human foot. This entire episode stands as a powerful lesson. It shows how easily our desires and preconceptions can shape our interpretation of the physical world, leading us to see what we wish were true. How do we separate a genuine historical anomaly from a misread natural phenomenon? The answer requires both an open mind and a disciplined skepticism, a balance that is tested again by an artifact that defies not biology, but the very laws of chemistry. Standing in the heart of Delhi is a testament to ancient metallurgical genius that defies the very passage of time. The Iron Pillar of Delhi rises over 7 meters high, a single, solid piece of wrought iron forged in the 4th or 5th century. For over 1,600 years, it has endured monsoons, heat, and pollution, yet its surface remains astonishingly free of the rust that should have consumed it centuries ago. This is not a matter of luck, it is a feat of profound scientific understanding. The pillar is composed of 98% pure iron, a level of purity that would have been extraordinarily difficult to achieve on such a massive scale with the technology of the era. But the real secret lies in its skin. Researchers like Dr. R. Balasubramaniam discovered that the pillar possesses a thin, protective film called mesawite. This is a special compound of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen that forms a passive layer, effectively shielding the metal underneath from further corrosion. Modern scientists can create similar protective layers in labs, but replicating the exact, self-repairing stability of the pillar's ancient coating under real-world conditions remains an elusive goal. The specific environment of Delhi, with its generally low humidity and the pillar's own immense thermal mass, certainly plays a role in its preservation. Yet these factors alone do not fully explain the intentional mastery behind its creation. How did the ironsmiths of King Chandragupta to the second's time possess such a sophisticated, almost intuitive grasp of material science? They worked with a knowledge that seems to peer into the future, creating an object of enduring strength that stands as a silent challenge to our assumptions of technological progress. This mastery over material, shaping metal to last for millennia, finds a parallel in an artifact that demonstrates an equally sophisticated command over something far more ethereal, the behavior of light itself. The green glass cup seems almost unremarkable until you hold it to the light. Then, a miracle of ancient science occurs. The opaque jade green transforms into a glowing, translucent ruby red, as if the cup itself holds an inner fire. This is the Lycurgus Cup, a Roman relic from the 4th century. It is not merely colored glass, it is a masterpiece of nanotechnology, engineered a millennium and a half before the field even had a name. The secret lies in the glass itself, impregnated with a precise mixture of gold and silver dust. But this was no coarse glitter. Roman artisans, through a process we can scarcely comprehend, ground these precious metals into particles as small as 50 nanometers in diameter, a scale smaller than a wavelength of light. These tiny metal flecks are what physicists call colloidal nanoparticles. They act as filters, scattering light in a specific way. When light reflects off the surface, you see a cool green. But when light passes directly through the glass, these nanoparticles allow only the warm, deep red wavelengths to travel through to your eye. Achieving this effect was not a matter of simple guesswork. It required an empirical, hands-on knowledge of chemistry and physics that we did not think existed. The creators had to understand that the size of the particle directly controlled the color of the effect, and they had to develop a repeatable process for suspending these infinitesimal metals uniformly throughout the molten glass without them clumping together. Was this the product of generations of meticulous, secretive experimentation by a guild of master glassmakers? Or was it a single, brilliant accident, a happy mistake whose underlying principles were never truly grasped? A stunning effect created without a full understanding of the science that made it possible. The cup offers no laboratory notes, only its silent, shifting beauty. It stands as a breathtaking example of how an ancient civilization could achieve a technological pinnacle through paths we have yet to fully map. This manipulation of light on a microscopic scale finds its grand counterpart in an artifact that maps light on a cosmic scale, a celestial guide of impossible precision. Deep within the remote Bayan Kara Ula Mountains, a Chinese archaeologist made a discovery in 1938 that would fuel one of the most controversial legends of the 20th century. Inside a series of carefully sealed caves, the expedition uncovered a bizarre burial site. The skeletal remains were unlike any known human tribe, described as strangely small and delicate with oversized skulls. Scattered around these remains were hundreds of stone discs, each with a hole in the center and a fine groove spiraling out to the rim. These were the Dropa Stones. The true mystery, however, was etched along those spiral grooves, a continuous line of microscopic hieroglyphics, a script so tiny it was almost invisible to the naked eye. The story that later emerged, popularized in books and articles, was straight from science fiction. It claimed that when the writing was finally translated, it revealed a tragic narrative, the story of the Dropa people, extraterrestrial visitors whose spacecraft crashed in the inaccessible mountains thousands of years ago. Stranded on an alien world, they could not repair their ship and were slowly dying, their story carved into these stone records for any future civilization to find. The legend grew even more fantastical with claims that scientific analysis revealed the discs were over 12,000 years old, composed of granite with high concentrations of cobalt and other metals, and that they even vibrated with an unusual electrical charge or resonant frequency. These elements created a perfect storm of mystery, blending ancient astronauts with anomalous physics. Yet, when subjected to the harsh light of mainstream scrutiny, the entire edifice crumbles. No reputable institution has ever been allowed to examine the original discs. The initial archaeological reports are lost or non-existent, and the named scientists involved cannot be verified. The compelling translations appeared only in sensationalist magazines decades after the supposed discovery. The entire tale is now widely regarded by archaeologists as an elaborate hoax, a modern myth woven from whole cloth. But its enduring power raises a profound question, one that goes far beyond the stones themselves. Why does this story and others like it resonate so deeply with us? Is it a simple desire for cosmic connection, a longing to believe we are not alone in the universe's long history? Or does it reflect a deeper, almost innate sense that our own past is somehow incomplete, that the silent gaps in our history are waiting to be filled with visitors from the stars? The Dropa Stones, whether a clever fraud or a misunderstood relic, ultimately tell us more about our own imaginations than about our ancient past. This human yearning to reach for the heavens finds a strange and beautiful expression in our next artifact, a golden model that looks less like an animal and more like a vehicle built for flight. These golden objects, resting in museum cases, look like they were plucked from a modern aircraft hangar. Curators handling artifacts from ancient Egypt and pre-Columbian cultures like the Quimbaya of Colombia could not help but notice the startling shapes. They saw not the curves of animals, but the sharp, geometric lines of engineering. These small, intricate models possess delta wings that sweep back for high-speed stability, distinct fuselage bodies, and clear vertical tail fins, features that seem to defy their classification as simple zoomorphic figures, as stylized insects or birds. Mainstream archaeology stands firm on this interpretation, pointing out that the artists of these cultures frequently created abstract and symbolic representations of the natural world. The absence of any clear propulsion system, like propellers or jets, strongly supports the idea that these are artistic renderings of living creatures. Yet, the resemblance is so uncanny that it has drawn the attention of experts from a completely different field. Aeronautical engineers like Dr. Algund Eenboom have analyzed the proportions and contours, and their professional opinion is that these objects are not merely aerodynamic by accident. They exhibit a precise understanding of principles that humanity would not rediscover and formally apply until the dawn of the Jet Age. The central question then becomes a fascinating puzzle of perception. Are we, with our modern eyes, simply projecting the familiar shapes of our own technology onto ancient art, seeing airplanes where the original artist saw birds or bees? Or is it possible that we are looking at a different kind of representation? Could these be conceptual models of single-wing gliders, or even more fantastically, echoes of a technology so lost that we can only recognize its silhouette? The artifacts themselves offer no blueprints or power sources. They are silent, golden riddles. Their existence challenges us to reconsider the line between inspired art and preserved science, a line that becomes even more tangible when we move from these handheld models to a monumental structure designed to defy gravity itself. The sheer scale of Sacsayhuamán is humbling, but it is the microscopic detail that defies all logic. These are not simple, stacked rectangles. Each of the gigantic limestone blocks is a unique, irregular polygon, a three-dimensional puzzle piece with as many as 12 distinct angles and facets. The faces of these stones are not flat, they are subtly convex, and the joints between them are not straight lines, but intricate, meandering seams that lock together with a complexity that modern software would struggle to design. The mainstream explanation of thousands of workers patiently grinding stones together with sand and water feels almost insufficient against such geometric genius. This was not just about brute force, it was about a profound, almost intuitive understanding of stone itself. The walls are a masterclass in earthquake engineering. Their complex, interlocking design and slight inward lean create a structure that dances with the earth rather than fighting it. When tremors strike, the stones shift and settle, then lock back into place, while the rigid, mortar-less buildings of the Spanish colonists that followed crumbled into dust. How was this knowledge achieved? Without a written language, without the wheel, and without hard iron tools, the Inca stonemasons executed a project that would challenge contemporary engineers. They seemed to possess a different kind of science, one based on generations of observation, a tactile wisdom passed from hand to hand. This pursuit of impossible perfection in hard stone finds its ultimate refinement in an object where the material itself becomes the mystery, a single vase carved from a substance that should have been unworkable. An explosion in a Massachusetts quarry unearthed more than just broken rock. In 1852, workers clearing debris after a blast in Dorchester found a metallic, bell-shaped vase, perfectly embedded within a solid chunk of stone. This was the Dorchester Pot, a classic and controversial out-of-place artifact. The vessel was crafted from a zinc and silver alloy, intricately decorated with floral inlays, and it was reportedly encased in Precambrian Roxbury conglomerate, a rock layer geologists date to over 600 million years old. If this account was accurate, it would mean this finely made object was sealed in stone eons before the first dinosaurs, let alone the first humans, ever walked the earth. The immediate, skeptical response focuses on the context. The Roxbury conglomerate is a complex formation, a cemented mass of ancient pebbles and sand, and its dating is not always straightforward. Critics argue the pot's elegant, Victorian-era style is a perfect match for the 19th century, not a prehistoric civilization. The most likely explanation is that this modern decorative piece simply fell into a deep fissure in the rock, where mineral-rich water quickly cemented it into a new concretion, creating the illusion of immense age within a single human lifetime. Then there is the problem of the evidence itself. The beautiful, enigmatic pot was lost not long after its discovery. Today, we have only the original written reports and a few drawings to go on. Without the physical artifact to subject to modern analysis, the entire story rests on a fragile foundation of second-hand accounts. The Dorchester Pot stands as a powerful cautionary tale. It highlights the immense difficulty of evaluating a singular, unverified discovery. Our desire to find proof of a forgotten past is so strong that we can sometimes build entire mysteries on stories that, upon closer inspection, may have a perfectly ordinary explanation. How do we separate a genuine historical shock from a simple case of mistaken context, especially when the key piece of evidence has vanished? This very question of evidence of what is permanently preserved leads us directly to our next discovery, where the proof is not a lost vase, but a set of footprints locked in stone for all to see. A collector's hammer cracked open a slab of Utah shale in 1968, revealing an impression that seemed to defy the entire timeline of life on Earth. William Meister was searching for trilobite fossils, but he found something far more startling. Pressed into the ancient rock was the clear outline of a sandal, complete with a worn heel, and beneath its sole, the unmistakable fossilized form of a trilobite, an ancient sea creature that vanished 260 million years before the first humans were supposed to walk the land. Here was a fossil that appeared to show a human being stepping on a creature from the dawn of complex life. The Meister print instantly became a rallying point for those who challenge conventional history, a single piece of stone evidence that suggested humanity's roots stretch back into an impossibly deep past. The scientific response, however, was swift and firm. Geologists identified the rock as part of the Wheeler Formation, a layer of Middle Cambrian shale dating back over 500 million years. They argued that the print itself is not a fossil at all, but a natural geological feature. The distinct shape is likely a spall pattern, a fracture that occurs when layers of rock split apart, sometimes creating uncannily symmetrical forms. The trilobite nearby, they note, is not genuinely crushed under the print, but simply lies in close proximity, a chance association magnified by our pattern-seeking minds. This phenomenon, where we see faces in clouds or a man in the moon, is known as pareidolia. It is a fundamental trick of human perception, a mental shortcut that helped our ancestors spot predators in the dappled shadows of the forest. In the modern world, this same instinct leads us to find familiar shapes in the random fractures of ancient stone. The enduring power of the Meister print speaks less to a forgotten history of humanity and more to our profound desire to find our own footprints in the deepest reaches of time. We long for a connection to the ancient earth, to feel that our story is longer and more wondrous than the established narrative allows. This impression in the rock, whether a geological accident or something more, leaves a deep impression on our imagination, a testament to our need to walk alongside the giants of prehistory. That very human longing for a tangible, mysterious connection to lost worlds finds its ultimate expression in our final artifact, an object carved from crystal and shrouded in an aura of the supernatural. The legend of the crystal skulls emerged from the shadows of Central American jungles, brought to light by adventurers who swore they had found these perfect relics in ancient temples. Life-sized and carved from a single block of flawless quartz, the most famous of these, like the Mitchell Hedges skull, were said to be so perfect that no seams or tool marks were visible to the naked eye. They were attributed to the Maya or the Aztecs, and stories quickly blossomed around them, tales of psychic visions, healing energies, and secret knowledge locked within the stone. Some legends even claimed they were the legacy of Atlantis, or that a set of 13 skulls held a collective consciousness that could save the world. The sheer hypnotic beauty of these objects made such stories feel almost plausible. They seemed like artifacts from a higher order of civilization, a perfect fusion of art and esoteric science. Then science looked closer. Under the microscope, the magic met modernity. Researchers discovered perfectly parallel grooves on the crystal surface, the unmistakable signature of rotary wheels and polishing wheels, tools that simply did not exist in the pre-Columbian Americas. The most celebrated skulls were almost certainly crafted in the 19th century, exquisite fakes born from a European fascination with the exotic and the occult. Their power, however, was never truly in their age. The crystal skulls endure because they answer a profound human need. We are drawn to objects that feel like keys, that promise a connection to a world more wondrous than our own. They become vessels for our myths, our hopes, and our longing for a hidden history. Why do we invest so much belief in these tangible mysteries? Perhaps because they offer a glimpse of magic in a world explained by science, a physical anchor for our most enduring dreams. As we reach the end of this journey through 20 impossible artifacts, the individual mysteries begin to weave together into a single, larger question. Each of these artifacts is a single thread, but when we pull them together, a startling pattern emerges. This is not a collection of random curiosities. It is a tapestry of anomalies that directly challenges the simple, linear story of human progress we so often take for granted. We are taught that technology moves steadily forward, from stone tools to silicon chips, in a neat, unbroken line. Yet here we have a 2,000-year-old computer, a Roman nanotech cup, and an iron pillar that defies corrosion, all pointing to moments of profound sophistication that appear, flash brilliantly, and then vanish from the historical record for centuries. What does this tell us? It suggests that the path of human ingenuity is not a straight line, but a series of peaks and valleys. Entire libraries of technical knowledge, entire schools of scientific thought, may have risen and fallen, leaving behind only these scattered, durable clues. The Antikythera Mechanism was not a precursor to our computers. It was the pinnacle of its own entirely different technological tradition, one that was tragically lost. These objects force us to reconsider the very nature of discovery. Is our current scientific understanding the only possible path, or merely the one that happened to survive? Perhaps the ancient Egyptians developed a profound, symbolic understanding of light and creation, while the Romans, through generations of glassmaking trial and error, stumbled upon principles of particle physics without ever writing down the underlying equations. The true lesson of these 20 artifacts may not be that aliens visited Earth or that a single super-civilization spanned the globe. The more profound, and perhaps more humbling, lesson is about the fragility of knowledge itself. It shows us that cultures can achieve breathtaking heights of innovation within their own unique paradigms, only to have that wisdom erased by war, famine, or the simple passage of time. Our own modern world is built upon a foundation of digital data and fragile infrastructure. How much of our hard-won knowledge would remain if our civilization faced a similar collapse? These artifacts are not just puzzles from the past, they are mirrors. They reflect our own deep-seated desire to find meaning in the gaps of history, to connect with our ancestors not as primitive beings, but as intellectual equals who solved problems in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. They remind us that the past is not a closed book, but an ongoing excavation, and that the next great discovery might be waiting in a dusty museum drawer or buried under shifting sands, ready to once again reshape everything we thought we knew.